We want to check markets one more time for you. We're trading higher right now. This is after news from the Federal Reserve that they are launching once again their commercial paper lending facility. This is to help some businesses get the necessary short-term financing that they might otherwise not be able to get. It also is a backstop for your money market funds, which are not FDIC insured. Nouriel Roubini is still with us. Nouriel, I want to get back to this $1,000 for every citizen in the United States that you talked about. And we've already gotten a response on Twitter from somebody who says, what good would that do? So can you answer that question? What good would sending each of us $1,000 do? And then the second part of it would be, is this a universal basic income argument? And should we be looking at perhaps maybe long-term continuing that?
Well, we need it because right now what's happening is that lots of people are losing jobs, especially those who don't have a formal employment. I mean, if you're formally employed, you cut the payroll tax, your health, but there are dozens of millions of people that are informally employed, partially employed, there are gig workers, contractor, hourly, retired, student, children, and so on and so on. If you offer $1,000 to every single American, first of all, it's highly progressive. If I make only $10,000 a year, it's 10% of my income. If I make $100,000, it's only 1% of my income. Secondly, if I'm a household of four, husband, wife, two children, I get $4,000 also for my children. And you cannot do something only targeted. Yes, we'll do targeted help to those who are sick, to those who are unemployed, to those that have trouble. But we have also provide money to everybody because we have no idea who is the gig worker that worked for a restaurant or for a hotel or for any service that right now has zero income. So we have to use $1,000 for everybody. Just transfer it to their bank account, to their checking account, to their Venmo, to PayPal, whatever not, and you provide immediately income for people that don't have any. Today, 40% of American households, based on the Fed number, have less than $400 of liquid cash to deal with emergency. 40% of households, less than $400. These people are not going to have even money to buy food once they lose their jobs. So you have to do something emergency. You cannot just try to do something exactly targeted. It's going to take us months to figure out who is supposed to be getting what and so on. You do something across the board for everybody, is progressive. You could maybe exclude the top 10% of the population that is rich, but it doesn't matter. If you exclude the top 10%, you save yourself only $35 billion out of 350. And 350 is only 1.5% of GDP. I'm expecting a stimulus that has to be more like 3% of GDP, closer to 600-700 billion. And then you're using the targeted support, the need for the targeted one. So you do both across the board and targeted. Is this universal basic income? Not really, because it's temporary. The idea of universal basic income, you give everybody something every month for all their lives. This is too expensive. Right. Even for 1 month, it's going to cost us $350 billion. If it was done for a year, it would cost us $3.5 trillion. Of course, we cannot afford it, but we can do it on a temporary basis because right now there is a severe economic crisis driven by a totally exogenous shock. If and whether in the future we deserve, we need, and we can afford a universal basic income is another story for when we're going to get out of this financial crisis. But that's separately. This is temporary. UBI instead is permanent.
So I want to mention two headlines that I saw this morning. One was from a Marist poll that said about 18% of Americans, and this survey was done in the last couple of weeks, about 18% of Americans say they have already had their hours reduced or been let go because of coronavirus. And then there was another headline that apparently The Information, which is a tech news source, said that Facebook is planning $1,000 bonuses to help employees during this crisis. So what those headlines say to me is that if we don't have a plan like you're discussing, and as you painted earlier, the likelihood of us actually getting that until it's too late is pretty high, that we're not going to get it until it's too late. What kind of income inequality increase are we going to see as a result of this virus?
Well, if we don't do it, we literally going to have riots in the streets and people going to the supermarket and literally taking over everything and stealing it because people are going to start starving. There are tons of people I know in New York, everybody that is in hotel business, or in a restaurant or in a bar or in the gig economy, they tell me they have no income. Their income has collapsed to zero. And as I said, almost half of Americans have less than $400 of liquid cash to deal with an emergency, $400. So either you give $1,000, and that's not even sufficient. You're going to have to do more targeted for the people who deserve it. But if you don't start with $1,000, you're going to have riots in the streets and people going and taking over every store. We're going to have violence in the street in the next few weeks. That's what's going to happen.
Wow. Nouriel, it's Julia again. It's certainly a dire picture. And again, like the likelihood of the $1,000 going through, if that doesn't happen, the consequences, as you just highlighted there, and answering Julie's question, are severe. I guess my question is, what role can even the private sector play to help mitigate some of these? What do you think they can do?
Well, you know, the Facebooks of the world can keep their employees on payroll at full pay, even if they don't work or they work from home. They can give them $1,000. So if you're the top 5% of corporate America, highly profitable, highly rich, highly cash full, you can help them. You can even afford having a collapse of your revenue for 3 months and paying everybody. But if you are any other firm that is medium size or smaller size that has a collapse of your revenues of, say, 50%, let alone more, you have a dilemma. If you pay the workers in full, you're going to go bankrupt. And if you don't pay them and you furlough them and they don't get this support from the government, if you don't have unemployment insurance, and most people are not formally employed, and therefore they're not going to qualify for unemployment insurance, then you're going to have people literally starving. So you have a hit to the income. Either the hit is taken by the workers, in which case they starve, or is taken by the firms that pay them full salary and they don't work, in which case the firms go bankrupt, or you share the pain. How do you do the risk sharing? The worker doesn't get full pay. Maybe they get 70% of pay. Some of it, the rest of it is paid by the firm, and some of it is paid by the government. So you do a risk sharing between the firm, the worker, and the government. That's how you absorb the shock so that neither the worker, nor the firm, nor the government goes bankrupt. That's what you need to do.
Nouriel Roubini, professor of economics at NYU Stern, we appreciate your insight here on The Move.
Good talking with you today.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.